This episode is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Pazant Building Products. Pazant Building Products has been providing contractors and builders with the supplies necessary to complete their jobs since 1964. They have built a reputation of honest, helpful, and quality service, serving the HRM for the last 58 years, now with 7 locations in Nova Scotia and 1 in New Brunswick. Our team at Atlantic Construction Podcast is extremely excited to announce our new co-branded partner, Procore. Procore is the global leader in construction management software. We'll be conducting several podcast episodes with Procore users and construction companies across the country in 2023, among many other things. Stay tuned. We're excited. Okay, welcome back to the Atlantic Construction Podcast. Very pleased to have our guest today, David Peters, the founder of Construction Clock. Construction Clock is a labor tracking app specifically for the industry. We'll talk lots about the details on that as we move into this discussion, but great to have you with us, David. I know your company head office is based, I believe, in Winnipeg, but you're on the road and I think tuning in from Dallas from an event that you're attending there.
Thanks for having me, Daniel. I'm in Dallas, Texas right now at the International Roofing Expo, and I'm so happy that you are having me on your podcast today.
Yeah, it's great to have you, and really looking forward to having a discussion here. Lots of connections for us, central and local Atlantic Canada. All different size companies that a discussion that comes up a lot is tracking labor and with ease and efficiency. And this is a really a neat product. And let's start, David, with your background. Obviously, it's very helpful to the company that you have the intuition from a carpenter to roofer, I believe, on into sales and now into founding this company in recent years. Maybe just take us through the short version of your journey within the industry and sort of when it came to your mind to use the frustrations that you had to solve that problem.
For sure. So Daniel, I jumped into the trades very early on. When I was 16, my dad wanted to build a house, and I got roped into being the laborer on site with my brother and my dad, and we built that house start to finish. And after we made a ton of mistakes and learned how to frame and do concrete and do finishing work, we went on and built my brother's house, and I kind of got bitten into the trade lifestyle, where it was just like you get to work outside, you get to work different trades every day. I mean, at that time we were doing everything, so I got the bug, and from there I went on to become a framing carpenter, and I ended up all over Western Canada, really. So I spent years on the road building barns and shops and houses and cottages. And that's the best thing to do in your 20s, is just figure out what you want to do. And that's exactly what I did. I did a little bit of everything. And by the time I got to 30, I wanted to kind of hone in on one specific trade. I wanted to be amazing at something. And so we dove into metal and asphalt roofing, and that was an incredible journey just to figure out how to scale that up, how to do it efficiently, how to do it profitably. And in Canada, we deal with harsh weather, really hot in the summertime, and it feels like there's never enough time in the day. And so we wrapped that company up to 12 employees. And what I realized in that journey is labor is the biggest variable you have. You have very little control on material costs. I mean, if you buy in quantity, yeah, you can get a bit, but labor is the only thing where you're building a culture in your company that involves people, and labor is a massive part of that. And that's kind of how I got into building Construction Clock. Is we looked at how archaic the labor tracking industry was. I mean, we were using all these different apps and writing down hours. And most of the time, we were inaccurate at best. And so when I finally ended my roofing company, I decided I wanted to build a labor tracking app that didn't suck, something that made it incredibly easy and incredibly accurate for construction companies to use, so that they could maximize this biggest variable that they had on their job site, which is labor time. And so we started this about a year ago, and we launched a few versions of this app, and now we're to the point where the app is incredible, and it's fully automated, and it's fully hands-free, and we built an amazing product that solves a really key problem in the industry, which is tracking labor accurately.
Absolutely. And one of the taglines, for Construction Clock, is, the first hands-free labor tracking app dedicated to the construction industry using GPS technology. So an employee never needs to open the app or manually clock in. Everything is automated. Obviously, that's a big part of the offering. And, we'll get more into the details, but let's talk for context about the problem that you're solving. Like you said, if you're in the construction industry as a service provider, so many different trades, and even, from different perspectives, from general contractors and developers with, internal labor crews and these kind of things. But, a lot of companies, we'll talk like different size companies, whether it's a 20-man crew that's around a certain city, or if it's a couple hundred or even more than that are traveling all over certain provinces and certain parts of the country. The cost just to track, and it's no secret that the industry, a lot of people that are running, we'll say, successful businesses are still kind of using archaic, as you mentioned, that term, and just all kind of old school methods of tracking labor. And things get lost in communication and allocated incorrectly. And, there's time theft issues with large companies, and just all kinds of different variables that you're solving by integrating an app like this into your systems with your company. So, I agree. This is, it's a big issue, and in a lot of trades, depending, if you want to compare glazing and masonry and the architectural side to drywall, where 30% to 50% of the cost of material, but at least 50% to even 80% is your labor, whether you're non-union or union or residential or commercial. And it's just a vast cost for these companies. Jobs go a few weeks longer than expected, and our hours are coming in incomplete or higher than they should be on different projects. And I'm rambling on a bit here, but so many listeners within our target audience of professionals in ICI construction are going to relate to this problem of labor tracking. Maybe just a quick discussion on some of these problems that you're solving with this app, and how important it is to just kind of have control, with, what site someone's at for half a day, even with a maintenance crew or something, right?
So the biggest problem that we're solving is removing that manual component of having to write down hours, no matter how you do it. If you're doing it in a phone, you're still doing this manual task that's followed by somebody in the company, the administration person, tallying all this up and then moving it into a payroll software and an accounting software where you're project costing. And we're replacing that very analog type of system with an automated hands-free system. And that is our biggest value proposition that we've built. The owner will be on the app a few times a day. He's adding projects. He's seeing where his teams are, and he's seeing how many hours have been accumulated on a specific job. And that's one thing that our app does really well with. For the employees, they show up on the project. It automatically clocks them in when they get there, when they leave, and they're going to go to the lumber yard. It's automatically tracking all their travel time between projects. And then at the end of the day, there's a full itinerary of what they did that day. And it's all been tracked accurately. So that's what we focused on building this last year. Now we're at the point where we've done a really good job of solving that. And now we're solving the smaller issues, setting the size of that geolocation. So if you're at a massive site, you can set a massive perimeter. And then when guys come into the site, it's clocking them in on that big site. If it's a tiny little house where they're replacing the roof, you can set the size of that project to the size of your project. And so we're doing that. We're integrating. So I'm at the Roofing Expo right now, and we're working on integrations with companies like Company Cam for photos, QuickBooks, Sage, all the different payroll softwares, so that we're going to take it a step further in we're collecting all this information. It's nicely on our app, and then the owner or the administrator presses the button and it automatically sends it over to the payroll software. So we're a startup company that loves this industry, and all I want to do is build the best labor tracking app for construction. And we're just honing in on that one specific thing. The same way that Company Cam just focused on job site photos and doing a really good job building a very simplistic app for job site photos. That's exactly what we're doing for hands-free labor tracking. We're not building scheduling and estimation and all this stuff. There's a ton of apps that can do that. We're just focused on this one very specific problem, and we feel we have one of the best solutions out there for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's kind of a level of simplicity to it as well. Hypothetically, as an owner, if a project isn't created in QuickBooks or any kind of accounting software, other project management software outside of Construction Clock, and some guys are going to the site to get started on layout or footings or whatever. It's just like, that's all that has to be done. You can kind of set that up, even if the project's not created in accounting yet, and the hours are going to start to be allocated, just hypothetically for listeners.
To set up a project literally takes 5 seconds. So if there's a guy on site and the project hasn't been created in Construction Clock, he goes to add new project, it automatically grabs his location, and he sets the radius of that project and creates the project. It'll take less than 5 seconds to create a project. And since those guys are already there, since those laborers are already there, it automatically clocks them in because they're on site. So it's a very simplistic process, and that's our North Star for this app. We're constantly focusing on how do we make it easier for employees, for laborers, for subcontractors to use. They don't want to fumble around on an app, to go to settings, to go to profile, to figure out how things are done. You create a project, you go to that project, you're clocking in and out automatically. And we're really honing in on that key feature, which is just the level of simplicity around that for the user.
Yeah, and I think the idea of taking it out of the employee's hands as another task, or another, even just typing something in for a few minutes, that it's all automated that way from that end back to the office, from site backwards to the office, is sort of really where the advantage comes in for the owners. It also makes me think about some subcontracting organizations that are heavy labor, whether it's cladding or other trades, masonry. There's so much manpower required on the big sites. And on those sites, there's a lot more governance from the company structure and hierarchy, and authority wise, there's a foreman there. There might be a project manager above him or alongside of him, and they're answering back to the office, and they have the business's interest in mind. Whereas the employees are there, maybe 80% of them are great, and the other 20% are pulled from here and there. A lot of turnover, and so there's somebody watching those hours on the big sites. But then you have all your smaller job sites where there might just be a 2-man crew, and there's no one for them to answer to locally or in their micro environment. And also, like maintenance crews that are different job sites, maybe 3 different small jobs a day. So that's where I feel like, are you getting a lot of feedback for those specific scenarios from users of your product, that there's where they're saving that $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 inefficient allocation and time theft and those kind of things.
For the larger job sites, they've built out these systems and processes. Either it's a key card to tap in. I've seen commercial sites where you're tapping with a key card. There's all these checks and balances within these large job sites. When you're running small projects, and as the owner, you're sending out 5 or 6 crews, or even 2 or 3 crews, what our app does is it allows you to keep track of who is where at what time. And currently, if you're doing it with an analog system like writing down hours, you're not able to see how many hours you're into a job unless you tally it up. You're not able to see where your guys are or where your crews are unless you're calling them, are you guys still at this project? So what our app is really great for is for that smaller construction company with 3 to 12 employees, where they have multiple job sites going on at once. They have multiple crews going out, and it's getting a little bit overwhelming to kind of manually keep track of everything. So a lot of companies that use our app are at that scale up stage where now they've split off to 2 crews, or they've split off to 4 crews from 2 crews. And they're a little bit overwhelmed with how they're going to manage it all. And having an app like ours really does a great job of giving the owner the information that he needs at his fingertips. And so I say that we're really great for 3 to 12 employee companies, but we have 50-person companies that use our app, and they are able to, inside of our app, set crews up and move crews around, move people from one crew to another. And then it helps create that separation between all of their people. One thing that we're working on now is that you can start assigning projects to crews. So they'll just, if they have 100 projects going on, they can see only the projects that are assigned to them. To keep it simple for the crews, they know exactly what projects are in front of them, which ones that they're working on now. So we're really emphasizing this app for the small and medium-sized construction company that's growing and becoming overwhelmed with how much administrative work it's creating to scale up at that size.
Yeah, David, I wonder if we could drill into what you just explained there a little bit for context for our listeners. So you're saying, from the office, management staff can send an alert to through the app to an employee's phone who might be on a certain project to let them know what project they're going to next, or assemble the crew, and that comes to these employees through the app via an alert or some kind of notification. Is that correct?
One thing we're working on right now is that you can assign projects. And so if the office staff are at the final stages of setting up a project, and they know that this is the crew that's going to be going to that project, they'll assign that project to that crew. Everyone on that crew will get a push notification saying that this project's been added. And if they're doing half-day projects, well, they know which one is in front of them. So you're absolutely right. They'll be alerted as projects are coming onto their docket inside the app of where they're going to next.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great feature. It makes me think of, especially when you're in the service providing companies within construction, we'll say trades mostly, we're providing a labor service. From the accounting perspective, unlike manufacturing and wholesale and retail, a lot of times you've got all your variables kind of wrapped up into one umbrella, saying, here's our revenue, here's our expenses, and here's our allocation for margin and profit from an overall perspective. Especially in construction and service providers, you really want to look at those projects and dissect them from a project specific standpoint and have a conversation, with management. Why did this one go so well? Why did that one not go poorly? Could we have done it with a 2-man crew instead of 4, or 20 instead of 25 or 30? And just to have that accuracy of allocation for hours, especially if you're dealing with, a workforce where there's not a lot of large revenue streams on one project. They're spread out across the board. I just see a ton of value there. It makes me think of, maintenance crews, development companies, whether they're internal or kind of third party maintenance service providers, all kinds of trips to fix one thing, for a morning, or small 2-man crews that it's necessary to have at least 2 guys to work together to put whatever task it is, and they're moving around from different jobs every few days or every week, and those to me seem to be like, obviously there's other targets and other clients that can benefit, but those seem to be, you're really streamlining things for those specific companies, I think.
Yeah, like one thing that we built out is once the project's been completed, you get a PDF document of the cost, the labor cost associated to that project, and a full breakdown of who worked on that project and how many hours you're into that project for. So you can take our PDF document and put it next to your estimated, your estimate, and look at, okay, where did we go over? And you can start improving future projects because you have that post project data in front of you, where you can see this is how many hours we quoted versus this is what the actual is. This is how long we estimated the project would take. This is how long it actually took. And one thing that we learned from that is a lot of companies are doing this where they're taking that PDF document after the project ends and they're doing that comparison. And they wanted to see a live view of where they were financially into that job. So one thing we're working on right now is where it shows you a dashboard of how many hours you estimated. So when you add that project, you put in that we estimate that this project's going to take 95 hours. And it'll tell you how many hours you're into the project and what cost this project is at right now. And so right on the app, it'll give you a live feed of exactly where you're at on the project. And I think that this will be really big for small and medium-sized construction companies, where they can look at the project at any point in time and basically get a reference of where they're at compared to what they estimated. And I think this is going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, listening to that as someone who has experience as an owner, an estimator, project manager of heavy labor construction services, one of the biggest variables in your business is that communication channel between estimating and your labor force, and getting accurate data back from the sites on allowances for hours, man hours, how much did you allow per linear foot for square foot for this, and having accurate data back to estimating is huge. So I mean that's another great feature there. And could we drill even further into this, beyond project specific? Are there any currently or plans to have task specific kind of allocation from the site, whether it be moving from wood framing to insulation and onto different kind of layers of assemblies and whatnot?
We spent a lot of time thinking about this feature and the benefits to it, and then how that offsets the hands-free aspect of our app, and how to mix the two. And so we found a really comfortable middle ground where we're going to be bringing in tasks for the projects, and those can be laid out ahead of time. For this foundation project, we're going to be doing some cribbing, we're going to be doing some setup, we're going to be pouring concrete, we're going to be doing stripping, and then some cleanup after. And you can assign those tasks into the project. And once the project gets started, the foreman or the lead hand can keep track of exactly, okay, today we're working on this. And then those tasks can have hours associated to them, instead of just in a complete hour set for the entire project. We've spent a lot of time planning this out, and we feel like we have a really good solution for this. So we're really excited to add that into our app in the coming months.
When I think about the target market, you mentioned companies from, whether it's 5 to 20 employees, and then even companies with 50 employees, or more are interested and are currently using the app, and it's providing a lot of value for lots of different size companies. I think when we talk about automation, it's not just a luxury; it's a necessity once a company grows to a certain level.
Yeah.
Avoiding that paper trail, avoiding tasks that are unnecessary, just automating as much as possible to free people up to do what they do best. Talk about what you're hearing from companies that have internal software, whether it be there's so many choices out there now and specific to each trade, and then on to cloud-based software for project management and those sorts of things. But when I think about integration for internal software, a lot of companies are operating with estimating software that's integrated with accounting, and it's integrated with other aspects of their business, and that's important and it's necessary. But I think in some discussions that you and I have had in the past, and there are companies that are using internal estimating software that's integrated with their accounting for payroll and whatnot, but they're still interested in adopting this app, even though there might be a feature within their holistic software that does offer some labor tracking. It's just not that efficient. It doesn't have the simplicity. It doesn't have the construction specific automation the way that you guys have set it up with your niche. So maybe speak to some scenarios where you're still able to provide value in these companies adopting your app, even though they have other means within their overall internal software.
I look at a company like Company Cam as an example that honed in on this one very simple feature that all these other companies had. And I talked to the founder. He's actually here with me, and he basically said, look, every piece of construction software has this photo management system, and they're doing a lot of different tools. Okay. And we came in and we did it completely different, and we did it the best way possible. And we're hyper focused on this one thing. And so for us, we look at the landscape and we talk to all of these software companies like Procore, Buildertrend, and they all have manual labor tracking built into it. And some might have some geolocation, but there's a whole bunch of companies that do not use software like that. And even the companies that are using software like that, they're looking at Construction Clock as a way better version of what their existing software is giving them, because it's fully hands-free and because it is a dedicated app that does this specific thing. They don't have to open up their laptop and find the tool that does that. And so we feel like building an app that's mobile, that's extremely intuitive. We're building an app that's different. But we're working with all of the other software companies to integrate. And over this year, we're going to be integrated into all these companies. So we're giving all of their customers the option of using the one that's built in or using Construction Clock. And I feel like that's going to make our industry better. I was speaking with Procore this last week, and they said, well, we have a labor tracking app, but yours is significantly different than the one that we built into our software. And they're not gatekeepers. They made that very clear. We're going onto their marketplace, and that'll allow all customers of Procore to use a Construction Clock once it hits the marketplace. And I feel like that's such a great mentality for a large company like them to be doing is letting the best apps in construction come in, and if it's demanded by the industry, they want to work with those independent softwares. And we're very happy that we can work and integrate into a bunch of these software companies that have built amazing products and have built a big stack of tools, and we can go in and we can be integrated and we can do this one thing, which is labor tracking, extremely well and tie it in with their existing process.
Yeah, I mean, it's a testament to the focus. You hear a lot of people in business kind of get outside of their focus, and they're not really focusing enough on the one problem they're trying to solve. And obviously, yourself as founder and president of Construction Clock and your team have done a great job of focusing on just solving that one problem, which is part of such a big part of the construction industry, which is the labor side. And great to
Yeah.
see business wise, from a business standpoint, the collaboration with other, whether it's companies as large as Procore or, QuickBooks and different softwares that understand and are proving that they want to elevate the industry too, by letting other people kind of do what it is they're focused on and integrating with their software. And, that's really great to see. And also a good segue into, kind of, the next area I wanted to touch on for our listeners, where, you're solving a problem for contractors and business owners in construction. Some of these guys might be wearing tools themselves, once a week with a crew of 10 or 20. Others are, running big operations, and they're on the white collar end. But what you're doing is, solving a problem in an industry in the construction industry with a tech company. So tell us a little bit about the model, about the team at Construction Clock. I'm assuming, there's a marketing manager, there's yourself, there's other management staff, and then, lots of tech employees that are probably outsourced different parts, and everyone working virtually. Just kind of give us a 30,000 foot kind of view of internal operations for Construction Clock and what the team looks like.
When I hung up my tool belt for the last time, um, I decided I was going to start a tech company, but I didn't know what I didn't know, and what I did know is I needed to bring in people that were experts in their field, just like you would hire a drywall finisher or a painter. I brought in very key people to help me launch this, and we have built this incredible team. There's 19 people in our company now, from developers, customer success, marketing, sales. We have this amazing team now, and I could have never gotten anywhere near this place without their professional help, and them coming in, and them leaving their careers, and most of them were at the height of their career at that time. And I had this vision of, we're going to revolutionize labor tracking for construction, and for them to join me in this vision and to kind of band around me has been incredible over the last year. So we're a fully remote company, which is a new thing for me as a construction company owner. That was hard for me to swallow, that where we don't have an office, we're not coming together physically, we're doing everything over phones. Okay, that was something difficult for me to accept, and now it's like that. It is by far the best way to do business now, because we have our team entirely around the world, from Ukraine to the U.S. and Canada. So at this point, we are 1 year in of a tech startup company. We are exploding. We're growing. I think the last time I talked to you, we were growing by 5 or 6 companies per day. Now that number's right around 11 companies that are joining us per day. And so we're really scaling up, and the industry is really starting to love what we're bringing to the table. And I think I don't feel like I've done a day of work for the last 365 days, because I've just been loving every minute of what we're doing, and the impact that we're having. We have incredible testimonials from customers that said, this is taking an entire Saturday off my plate where I can spend time with my family again, that I'm not going through all these timesheets and doing all of this job costing. It's down to an hour a day now instead of an 8-hour day on a Saturday. So that's the thing that keeps me and our team motivated to just keep building it better, making improvements on the app. And for all the companies that joined us last summer when we launched our beta, and they stuck through all the bugs and all of the user improvements that we were doing, I cannot thank those people enough, because those are the early adopters that allowed us to get this off the ground to the point where now we've got this robust app. We've got hundreds of companies using it, and we're growing rapidly. And without those early adopters that believed in what this could become, not what it was at the start, but what it could become, I am truly thankful that I met those people and that I was able to convince them to stick with us. And yeah, I hope that answers your question, Daniel. But that's basically where we're at now.
Absolutely, David. I can feel your passion when you speak about the journey in the last year. And as a fellow entrepreneur, it's so great to see that you've taken a step out and weathered that storm. You mentioned early adopters. I think for any startup, it's so important to have those people that are willing to take a chance on it, because it is a leap of faith. You don't have a lot of data and stuff that you can show them from the past to assess their risk. But yeah, those early adopters are so important. They take a leap of faith. They put their faith in you and your company, and they stick with you, and they kind of work through some problems. And that's so important to have that feedback. And I'm thinking about yourself. We talked just before we went live here. You've been on the road for a couple of months. You're all over North America, maybe the world. I'm not sure. I know you're in Dallas now, and last time we spoke, I forget what location you were in at that time. But yeah, when I think about sort of the processes of your tech team, assuming there's all kinds of bug fixes and app updates, you're kind of riding this wave yourself as the founder, and kind of communicating with a lot of different parties there, people in the industry using the app, and what are their needs. And even though you have a strict focus of tracking labor, everything kind of that's within that, and simplifying it, I'm sure you've found out some different kind of pivots that you've made, and updates to the app that you couldn't have foreseen. Just kind of speak a little bit about what it's like to kind of be that facilitator between the client's experience onto your team, having the tech team there to make updates and be planning, a few months out of what do we need to do next to keep on riding this wave. Because I think that's a good analogy to use, riding a wave when you're starting something that's authentic and unique as an entrepreneur, and you're solving a specific problem.
Biggest thing I can look back to is building out maybe not a feature, but a process inside the app that would suit one type of company, and then 3 other companies would call us and say, "Why did you do that? This makes it so much harder for us to use the app now." Like, I'll give you an example. Last summer, we did this thing where we automatically would delete the project if nobody had used the project. If nobody had clocked into that project for 30 days, we'd automatically delete it and create a PDF document. And one company's like, "I have too many projects." It was a roofing company that had too many projects. "I need these gone. They need to automatically delete." Well, 10 other companies called me immediately after and said, "Where'd all my projects go? I need all those back for the end of the year." And so for us, that's why it's so important that I come from the industry and that I have a deep understanding, because even I make a lot of mistakes. And talking to our early adopters, I used to react very quickly to everything that they wanted. And now I have to kind of look at the entire industry and say, how is this going to, if we're going to build this, how is this going to improve the entire industry, not just one sector of it? Because then you just get to a too niche of a product. And I'm playing this middle ground of talking to our customers. And that's super important, to constantly be talking and engaging with our customers. And then where our vision of this app is, and where we want to go with it, and then what that looks like years down the road. And so it's been a huge hurdle to overcome, how to make this really user friendly, how to make this powerful, and how to make it fully automated, and to put all 3 of those things together into a mobile app. Was a massive challenge, and now that we've done it and we've built this amazing product, I feel like a big hurdle has been overcome, and now we get to do the fun stuff, like the integrations and the really fun improvements where we just take an already great product and we just build off of it. And I'm really excited about where we're at now going into year number 2.
Amazing. I want to just touch back on one of the points you made. As an owner with your labor force using Construction Clock, you're getting kind of a live map, a view of what employees are where and how many on each site, and that's kind of auto populated in real time. Is that correct?
This is a big point of contention when we talk to construction companies. We've very much considered the privacy of a user with the accountability for the owner of the company who wants to see where their people are at all times. And we found this really great middle ground where we are tracking to make sure that people are at the project, and when they leave the project, we're not tracking them throughout the day like there's driving apps where you can see a breadcrumb of everywhere they were that day. We're just asking the app if they're on the project or if they're not on the project. And if they're not at the project, then we have them as travel time. And I think this is a really important thing to talk about, because we want to be as accurate as possible without crossing the line of user privacy. And we also don't want to be using a lot of data on phones. And so we found this really great middle ground where the owner can open up the app and see a map view of where all of their projects are and where all of their people are currently, without crossing that line of constantly tracking their location, and seeing that they went to the 7-Eleven to use the bathroom and things like that. So we take that really seriously, is the balance between user privacy and time accountability.
Absolutely. And you have to think that a lot of the administration staff with some of these, especially probably in the some of the smaller outfits, somebody's in charge of administration. It's very difficult to hours come in, paper trail, you're missing some here, not sure what site this guy was on, you can't make out the handwriting, you're making phone calls every Monday or Wednesday, Friday when you're running payroll. You'd have to think it really would take a lot off the administrator, as far as the hours put and the added stress to get some of these weekly payrolls done. I'm sure you've had some great feedback from people in those positions.
As much as we love talking to our customers, we're also talking to the bookkeepers of these customers and the person that's running payroll and the administrator that's doing job costing. And the transition between their current method and using Construction Clock is a massive improvement from their current system, in which now it does a full summary breakdown and it gives them exactly the data that they need. And it's not 15 pages long. It doesn't show every detail, but it just shows them exactly what they need to see so that they can run payroll within minutes instead of hours of calculating everything. And this has been really great, is seeing on the administration side how much we've improved that process for people to run payroll and for the bookkeepers that are tracking job costing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're saving hours and you're tightening up allocation on both sides of every company, on the office side and the site side, on the blue collar and the white collar side, if you will. So, it's definitely, there's other options out there. I mean, talk about maybe the competition. I feel like the competition for you might be just other tracking apps that aren't as specific, aren't as drilled in and focused on, labor tracking specifically. There's so many different options out there from larger, payroll outsource companies where they're offering these sorts of services, but not specific to construction, not for specifically contractors, from a founder who's got that background and intuition. Just tell us, a little bit about some of the competitive landscape.
I think the biggest thing that sets us apart is when I talk to customers, they immediately know that I was a contractor, and it's so easy to qualify somebody that's been in the trades versus a company that just builds software that technically does solves a problem, but isn't specific to our industry. And there is a lot of software products out there that do track time. You can get an app as simple as Clockify, where you're just literally punching in hours. And you can get really complex ones where you're job costing. And the biggest thing that I've found is we call ourselves the first hands-free labor tracking app, and being dedicated to the construction industry, because what sets us apart from the competition is the fact that there is a massive amount of automation that happens that replaces your teams having to manually enter a lot of data day after day, week after week. And we've replaced that with very intuitive, automated software that's sitting in your pocket, that's always with you. And I feel like we're leading the pack when it comes to labor tracking for construction. And our customers are a testament to that. We have lots of customers that have come to us from another software solution to us because of how simple our app is to use, how simple it is to set up, and then the fact that we have solved this problem for the construction industry and not for every single industry out there. We're project based, and we want to focus on projects. And no matter if you're a service company or a construction company or a maintenance company, we're going to be the app that solves labor tracking for project-based industries.
David, I think that's a great, clear and concise kind of overall summing up, Construction Clock. And we've touched on a lot of different aspects and different scenarios, and about your company specifically and about the service that you provide. And obviously, our team, Atlantic Construction Podcast, we share your passion for the industry, and it's great to have guests such as yourself and obviously your whole team to connect with you folks with Construction Clock. We hope that our listeners, throughout Atlantic Canada, I think there's a lot of companies that fit the target client of who's going to benefit from having this app. I've got friends and colleagues and business associates that I can't wait for them to hear about the product that you folks are providing. So we hope that we can help you out in that regard. And it's been great to chat with you. And just from our team here on our end with our media company, we're also a startup and 2 years in. And like I said before, we share your passion, and hats off to you and your team for what you're doing, for solving that critical problem within the industry, and just for elevating the industry in your own way. It's great to chat with you, and we're definitely wishing you luck in the future.
I really appreciate you having me on your podcast, and I'm excited for you guys as well, as you guys are growing your startup media company. Really excited to see how you guys can continue to grow and expand and elevate this industry that we all love so much.
This episode is brought to you by Cook Insurance, your trusted insurance broker in Atlantic Canada for 50 years. Insurance is complex, and the Cook team focuses on delivering comprehensive solutions for your construction needs, including builder's risk, wrap-up liability, performance bonds, and project-specific construction. A Navicord partner since 2020, Cook is one of the largest construction brokers in Canada and offers national strength with a local touch. Whatever your insurance needs are, Cook has you covered. We would like to take this time to thank a longtime sponsor of our media platform, FCA Surety. The brokers at FCA Surety are experts in all surety bonding categories and provide unparalleled service during the bonding process.